There's always been hyper-focused on cross-border payments and really asset issuance, and so these 2 things come together with PYUSD.
I was sitting in traffic, horns blaring, people shouting, everyone in a rush, and for some reason, my mind went quiet. Because right there, in the middle of all that noise, it hit me. The world's financial system is doing the exact same thing. Busy, loud, outdated. But underneath it all, something quiet is being built, something faster, cleaner, smarter. And the crazy part? That something already has a name: Stellar. Most people still see XLM as that little cousin of XRP. But while the world argues about regulation, having events, and meme coins, Stellar's been doing the work, building real-world payment bridges, connecting banks, fintechs, and even humanitarian corridors. Here's what's wild: this isn't a theory anymore. From the UN to MoneyGram to USDC integration, Stellar's technology is already moving value across borders every single day. And if you zoom out, you start to realize it's not just another blockchain project. It's becoming the public face of the new financial internet. Because while everyone's chasing hype, Stellar is quietly becoming the plumbing of global money. And when that system flips fully online, when CBDCs, remittances, and digital wallets start moving through the same Stellar rails, the people holding XLM today won't just be investors. They'll be early shareholders in the world's next monetary network. But here's the part nobody seems to get. It's not coming someday. It's already happening. And by the time the headlines catch up, the train will have already left the station. Let's be real. We've heard so many "this coin will make you rich" claims in crypto that it's hard to believe any of them anymore. But when it comes to Stellar XLM, it's not about hype, it's about the receipts. Actual partnerships, actual corridors, actual people using it right now. And the deeper you look, the harder it becomes not to see it. Because here's the truth: while other projects are fighting for attention on Twitter, Stellar's been building relationships that most cryptos can only dream of. Let's start with something no one talks about enough: the UN connection. Back in 2021, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, started testing USDC payments on the Stellar network to send aid directly to refugees in Ukraine. Think about that. This isn't some DeFi farm or meme coin giveaway. It's life-saving humanitarian aid, moving instantly, transparently, with zero middlemen. And guess what that means for XLM holders? It's validation. Because when institutions like the UN start building on Stellar, they're not just testing blockchain, they're choosing an infrastructure partner. That's how real adoption begins. Not with a press release, but with a pilot that quietly scales until it becomes the standard. And Stellar isn't stopping there. You've probably heard of MoneyGram, right? One of the largest remittance networks in the world, billions in transfers every year. Well, in 2022, they went all in with Stellar. MoneyGram built a system that allows users to convert cash to crypto and crypto to cash in minutes at thousands of locations, powered by Stellar. Think about the ripple effect, pun intended. A farmer in Nigeria, a student in India, or a freelancer in the Philippines can walk into a MoneyGram location, deposit local currency, and send it to someone halfway across the world. Settle through the Stellar network near instantly using stablecoins like USDC. No Western Union fees. No multi-day delays. No hidden middleman. That's not a future use case. That's happening right now. And if you're holding XLM, you're basically holding stock in the payment rails that are quietly replacing the old remittance system. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Stellar isn't just about moving money, it's about connecting systems. See, the global financial world is upgrading to ISO 20022, that new universal language of money I talked about in the last video. Every major central bank, from the Federal Reserve to BRICS nations, is moving toward this new standard because it allows every payment system, old and new, to communicate perfectly. And Stellar? It's already ISO 20022 compliant. That means it doesn't need to catch up. It's already speaking the same financial language as the world's central banks. So when new systems like FedNow, BRICS Pay, or IMF's digital currency sandbox start connecting, guess which networks are plug-and-play ready? Exactly. XLM is one of them. This is what most people don't realize. Interoperability is the final unlock. Because once all these payment systems can talk to each other through ISO 20022, you won't need 10 different platforms to move money. It'll just flow. And when that happens, the blockchains that already speak that language, Stellar, Ripple, Quant, HBAR, will be the translators of the new digital economy. But here's the kicker. Stellar is the only one built for people. While Ripple XRP is working with banks and institutions, Stellar XLM is focusing on the human side of the system: remittances, humanitarian aid, microfinance, small businesses. They're not competitors. They're partners in different layers of the same financial reset. And that's what makes XLM so powerful. It's not trying to be a Wall Street asset. It's building the rails for Main Street. It's helping unbanked families move money safely. It's allowing fintechs in Africa and Latin America to offer services that used to take decades to build. It's giving entire communities access to liquidity, not through a bank, but through code. You can almost feel it, the same quiet revolution the internet brought to information, Stellar is bringing to money. Now, let's talk numbers for a second, because this is where it gets wild. Stellar's network has processed over 100 billion operations since launch. It's supported 8 million active accounts, and the ecosystem keeps growing with hundreds of tokens issued on its chain, from stablecoins to digital assets to wrapped currencies. And remember, this isn't a new chain that came out of nowhere. It's been running since 2015, quietly, reliably, with near zero downtime. In crypto years, that's ancient, and that longevity matters. Because when governments, corporations, and NGOs look for a blockchain partner, they don't pick the newest trend. They pick what's proven. And Stellar has proven itself again and again. But let me take you deeper, because there's a part of this most people miss. You've heard the phrase CBDC, central bank digital currency. Well, Stellar has already started testing CBDC integrations. Countries like Ukraine and Brazil have explored or launched pilot programs on the Stellar network to digitize their national currencies. That's not small. That's systemic. And if just one major country rolls out a live CBDC using Stellar as its settlement layer, the transaction volume through XLM would skyrocket overnight. Because at that point, it's not just people sending money, it's entire nations. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Zion, if all this is true, why hasn't the price exploded yet? And that's a fair question. But here's the thing, infrastructure moves slower than hype until the switch flips. Think back to the early 2000s. When the internet's backbone was being built, nobody cared. Fiber optics, server infrastructure, undersea cables, all boring stuff, right? But the people who saw it coming, the ones who invested in those early networks, they were the ones who caught the explosion when the world finally went online. When I say every single XLM holder will be rich, I'm not talking about an overnight pump or a meme-fueled rally. I'm talking about being early to a global system that's already being adopted. Because what happens when billions of dollars in cross-border transactions, humanitarian aid, CBDCs, remittances, start flowing through Stellar's rails every single day? What happens when banks, fintechs, and entire governments rely on XLM to move value efficiently? You stop being a trader and become a shareholder in the foundation of the next financial system. That's why I'm not watching XLM's price right now. I'm watching the integrations, because those are the real signals. Every partnership, every corridor, every new pilot. It's another brick in the digital foundation Stellar's been quietly building for years. And when that foundation goes mainstream, when the rest of the world finally sees what's been hiding in plain sight, that's when the value will catch up to the reality. And the holders who stayed patient, who didn't sell when it was quiet, they'll be the ones holding the keys when the world finally turns the engine on. Let me be brutally honest with you. Most people still don't understand what they're holding when they say, I've got some Stellar. They see it as just another crypto token floating around in a sea of volatility, when in reality, it's one of the most underestimated financial backbones quietly building the next monetary system. And if you're someone who's actually paying attention, someone who's seen the pattern of silent partnerships, government integrations, and fintech adoption, then you know XLM isn't just a coin. It's infrastructure. Here's the crazy part. Stellar was never built to be flashy. It doesn't scream hype, it doesn't drop random announcements every week. It's the opposite, it moves quietly. But it's that quiet, methodical buildup that's creating billion-dollar cracks in the old financial system. Think about it. While everyone was shouting about meme coins and speculative tokens, Stellar was sitting down with IBM, MoneyGram, and even the United Nations to solve one of the world's biggest problems, cross-border money movement. Right now, if someone in Nigeria wants to send money to their cousin in Brazil, the process goes through layers of banks, fees, and delays. But Stellar? It eliminates all of that. It's instant, cheap, and trackable. That's not crypto hype. That's real-world utility that governments can't ignore forever. The invisible infrastructure of the new system. Here's where it gets really interesting. Stellar's technology is baked into what's becoming the backbone of global interoperability. ISO 20022 compliance. This isn't just a random buzzword thrown around in crypto spaces. ISO 20022 is the new global messaging standard that all banks, clearinghouses, and central banks are being forced to migrate to by 2025 to 2026. Let that sink in. While people are chasing daily green candles, Stellar's technology is quietly positioning itself to become part of the plumbing that moves trillions of dollars across the globe. It's like buying a share in the internet's router system back in 1996, except this time it's money that's moving, not data packets. And if that wasn't enough, think about the tokenized asset revolution that's starting to explode. Bonds, real estate, stocks, even art, everything is being tokenized. Stellar's chain was built for that exact purpose, to tokenize and transfer real-world assets at lightning speed. PayPal and Circle didn't pick random chains. Now here's the headline that everyone ignored: PayPal and Circle, two of the most powerful fintech players on Earth, recently started opening the floodgates by integrating with Stellar's infrastructure. When Circle's USDC began expanding beyond Ethereum and into Stellar, that was the quiet confirmation the market needed. It wasn't about speculation anymore, it was validation. And PayPal? Their PYUSD stablecoin rollout is following a similar pattern, targeting blockchains that are ISO compliant and built for regulatory use cases. That's not random. That's a roadmap. If you zoom out, you start seeing the picture. All the digital money players, from Ripple, XRP, to Stellar XLM, are setting up the rails for the same financial convergence. And whether or not you realize it, the systems are already merging, from utility to wealth transfer. Now, let's talk about what this really means for you, the holder. When institutional money floods in, and it will flood in, it won't go to the loudest meme project. It'll go to the ones that have been quietly building compliance-ready systems in the background. That's why Stellar has been working so closely with regulators and banks instead of fighting them. It's not rebellion, it's alignment. When the Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, or African regional banks finally flip the switch on CBDCs, they won't have time to build everything from scratch. They'll use existing rails. Stellar's already there. Now imagine what happens when that adoption wave hits. Every remittance company using Stellar will need XLM liquidity. Every tokenized asset built on Stellar will require transaction fees in XLM. Every institution connecting through the Stellar network will lock up XLM for settlement. That's not a hype pump. That's organic demand at a systemic level. The setup before the explosion. We've seen this movie before. Bitcoin had its store of value awakening. Ethereum had its DeFi revolution. Now Stellar's next. But the difference is, Stellar won't rise because of hype. It'll rise because of necessity. Because governments, banks, and institutions can't afford not to use it. The truth is, this entire digital transformation has been happening around us, not in front of us. While everyone's eyes were glued to daily price charts, Stellar was embedding itself into the future of payments, remittances, and tokenization. That's the kind of setup that doesn't just create millionaires, it creates new classes of wealth. Because it's not sexy. There's no overnight 1000x tweet. There's no meme army pushing hashtags. But ask yourself this: when the biggest players, from IBM to Circle to MoneyGram, all decide to use one chain for their infrastructure, do you really think that's a coincidence? It's not. It's strategy. And it's the kind of strategy that will make today's quiet XLM holders look like the smartest people in the room 5 years from now. The irony? By the time mainstream crypto influencers start screaming XLM is the next big thing, it'll already be too late. The real money will have already moved in. The price will have already begun to reflect the decades of groundwork. So if you're holding XLM right now, don't think of it as a speculative bet. Think of it as your ticket into the infrastructure layer of the new financial world. Because every single XLM holder who truly understands what's happening right now won't just be early, they'll be wealthy. Here's the thing most people don't realize yet. Institutions don't chase noise, they chase certainty. And right now, Stellar XLM is quietly becoming the certainty layer of global finance. When we talk about institutions, we're not just talking about hedge funds or traders. We're talking about the real whales, central banks, fintech giants, payment processors, governments, and cross-border remittance networks. These are the players that move trillions, not millions. Let's address something wild that's been happening beneath the surface. The ISO 20022 Trinity, XRP, XLM, and HBAR are becoming the backbone of digital liquidity. XRP, built for institutional-grade cross-border settlement. XLM, designed for retail and consumer-level payments. HBAR, powering enterprise and government-grade data infrastructure. Together, they're not competing, they're completing each other. While Ripple is aligning with central banks and the IMF, Stellar is building the People's Bridge, the network that connects the unbanked, fintech apps, and on-chain stablecoins into one unified flow of liquidity. Now add BAR's enterprise infrastructure into the mix, and you get a perfect triangle of adoption that could quietly rewrite how money moves, stores, and verifies across the world. Here's the part that gets me. Most of these integrations don't make the headlines yet because they're not meant to. These corporations, from Visa, PayPal, and MoneyGram to Circle and IBM, are still in the testing phase. They're running pilots, building sandbox systems, and fine-tuning cross-border payment corridors before the full switch gets flipped. When they do flip it, you won't get a warning. There won't be a massive XLM announcement tomorrow. It'll happen like this. You'll wake up one morning, open your phone, and see that Stellar has been listed as the underlying network for multiple payment rails across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. That's when the market will explode, not from hype, but from validation. Because once those corridors open, liquidity will have to flow, and XLM will be at the center of it. As BRICS nations accelerate their push for blockchain-based trade settlements, the West, especially the US, can't afford to sit still. They can't allow an entirely new payment infrastructure to form outside their control. So what's the alternative? They start backing systems that can be integrated within their framework, regulatory-friendly, transparent, and compliant blockchains. That's exactly what Stellar offers. Stellar is US-based, open source, and designed to meet compliance standards that fit global finance. So while some blockchains are being blacklisted or debanked, Stellar remains a neutral, legal, and highly adaptable player. This makes it the ideal bridge for governments and corporations that want blockchain efficiency without losing control. We're nearing the point where big players will start publicly naming their blockchain partners. Imagine headlines like, MasterCard launches cross-border payment corridor using Stellar Network. World Bank pilots tokenized bond settlements via Stellar. African Union adopts XLM for Pan-African Stablecoin Project. Those headlines aren't fiction. They're inevitable outcomes of the groundwork being laid right now. You can already see the patterns forming. MoneyGram using Stellar for international remittances. Circle's USDC expanding liquidity on Stellar's chain. IBM's WorldWire using XLM as a settlement asset between banks. Every one of those pilots adds credibility, utility, and liquidity pressure, all pointing to one direction: institutional onboarding. And when that wave hits, it won't just send XLM's price higher, it'll completely reprice what XLM represents. It'll no longer be a crypto token. It'll be a core financial instrument in the new digital monetary order. Let's do a quick thought experiment. If Stellar ends up moving even 1% of the world's $156 trillion annual cross-border volume, that's $1.56 trillion in value settled through the network. If even a fraction of that volume requires liquidity in XLM, the price impact becomes almost unquantifiable. That's not hopium, that's math. We're standing on the edge of a financial realignment that no chart can predict and no influencer can hype enough. Because when the institutions finally say, "We're in," It won't be speculation anymore. It'll be confirmation. And when that moment arrives, every XLM holder who believed early, held firm, and understood the bigger picture will wake up to realize they weren't just investors. They were pioneers. Here's the thing no one wants to admit. When mass adoption finally hits, it won't come with fireworks or fanfare. It'll start as a slow hum, new partnerships here, a small government pilot there, and then all at once it'll click. One day, the same people who laughed at crypto will be sending money internationally through systems powered by Stellar without even realizing it. They'll be moving value, paying salaries, trading tokenized assets, all through the rails we've been talking about for years. And the irony? They'll never know the reason those transactions happen in seconds instead of days is because of XLM. Being early is a strange thing. It's not glamorous. It's lonely. It's full of doubt. You question yourself, am I missing something? Why isn't anyone else seeing this? But that's how every major financial revolution has always started. Before the internet, the idea of email was a joke. Before streaming, Netflix was a mail-order DVD service. Before digital money, Bitcoin was magic internet coins. And before global interoperability, Stellar is just another altcoin. Until suddenly, it's not. Until suddenly, it's the bridge, the one layer connecting digital money, real assets, and everyday people. And that's when it all flips. You see, most people think wealth comes from chasing pumps. But the real wealth, generational wealth, comes from being early to paradigm shifts that look boring at first. That's exactly where Stellar sits right now. While influencers argue over which coin will moon next, the biggest institutions on Earth are building in silence. They're preparing for a digital financial system that's faster, fairer, and fully connected. And Stellar's rails are sitting right at the intersection of that evolution. It's the calm before recognition, the stillness before revaluation. And the ones who understand it now, who can feel that hum beneath the surface, are going to be the ones who wake up in the next few years and realize, oh my God, it's happening. So what happens next? PayPal, Circle, MoneyGram, central banks, stablecoin issuers. One by one, they'll keep testing, expanding, and integrating. Then, almost unnoticeably, Stellar will stop being a crypto project and start being financial infrastructure. That's when the price stops being just a number and starts being a reflection of global utility. And at that point, the people holding XLM today won't be just investors. They'll be part owners of the new financial backbone of the world. When the rest of the market wakes up to what you already know, they'll call it luck. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck. It was patience. It was conviction. It was seeing the pattern before the world caught up. So if you've been here since the early days, hit that like button, not just for the algorithm, but for yourself, because you know what's coming. And if you're new and you're still trying to figure out why everyone keeps whispering about XLM, now's the time to lean in, because the story is just getting started. Subscribe, because over the next few weeks, I'll show you exactly how XLM is positioning itself for what could be the most important financial revolution of our lifetime. Stay grounded, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the quietest coins create the loudest wealth.